Welcome back to the Fallon Forum. Thanks, folks. Quick shout-out to our sponsors, the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility, and Climate Action Now. Thanks also to Sergeant's Garage at 6th and College on the north side of Des Moines. Thanks to Hawk Restaurant, that's H-O-Q, Hawk Restaurant at East 5th and Walnut. 95% of the food served at Hawk comes from Iowa farms and Iowa producers. Thanks to Dan Kelly, a licensed realtor here in central Iowa, with 10 years of experience on both commercial and residential development. Thanks also to Greenlight Renewable, on the cutting edge of solar energy as solar gets cheaper and more available. Greenlight Renewable, they're the folks to call to help you get set up to make solar happen on your business or your home. All right, folks, welcome back to the Fallon Forum. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation today to this point. We're going to shift gears here. We're going to talk politics. We'll be talking about the caucuses in the second half of this segment of this section of the program. We'll be looking at Donald Trump, looking at the five Democrats who first time all five candidates appeared on stage together. We'll look at that. But first, we're going to talk with Joe Murray. Joe's joining us on the phone from Mississippi. I don't know Joe. I've never met him, but read a column that he wrote that I found intriguing. And Joe, I bet you were a little bit surprised during the break when you heard some of those commercials in Spanish.
But we have a great Hispanic population down here in Mississippi, so I understood about maybe 2/3 of it.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah, no, this is a Latino station, and they've been kind enough to let us broadcast the program in English, but we still have their commercials in between.
Well, there you go.
So I think we would agree. I think the crux of your argument was that sometimes it's called the fourth estate. You've got the different branches of government, then you've got the media, who have a lot of influence on politics. The fourth estate is not always objective, and as I think many of us would agree, have kind of abdicated their responsibility to be an independent, critical voice of the rest of the political process. I think we would agree on that.
Yeah, I think we do. What we have here, and it really has developed very strongly over the last 2-3 decades, especially with the advent of social media and the internet and nonstop news coverage. Instead of having a media that actually reports the news objectively, which is the job, you're supposed to put your personal biases aside. I was a reporter for a number of years, and I had to report on many a Democrat where I didn't agree, but I had to do my best, put my biases aside, and do a correct story. But today we have what I call marketing media. It is Fox News is going to cater to the right. MSNBC is going to cater to the left. CNN caters to the clueless. I mean, this is where we are in America.
Where do you put C-SPAN? They're going
to be the people who actually care.
They cater to those who want a long nap.
Exactly. I was going to say they're the insomnia folks.
Right, the insomniacs. That's C-SPAN's audience. Okay.
Exactly. But that's the problem we have today, is we have a media that is telling people what they want to hear and not necessarily what they need to hear. And it doesn't matter whether you're a conservative, a liberal, a libertarian, a socialist, a Green Party guy. You should be getting an unbiased news source. And I'm not completely naive to think that biases are not going to creep in. They are. Right. But today, there's no bones about it. You're getting a biased report, and people are confusing that with news.
What bothers me is when I expect bias from an editorial page. That's fine. No problem. Get that. Or from a talk. I expect bias from folks like me who have talk shows. But what I don't like is when the news itself, when something that's being presented as basically objective journalism, and again, there's always going to be a little bias. The reporter's going to have some angle that creeps in there. I get that. But when it comes through very blatantly, that bothers me. When the headline in the Des Moines Register about Bernie Sanders just blazons the word socialist, I mean, that's a bias. That's not, or when it blazons the words underdog candidate and then fill in the blank O'Malley, or pick your Republican underdog as well. That to me is a bias that has no place in an allegedly objective, article.
Yeah, you're right. You have to be very careful when you're writing those headlines and those lead sentences. I think one of the perfect examples is what happened in Iowa over the weekend with Donald Trump and the Washington Post. It is clear right now the Washington Post does not like Donald Trump. Its headline was, Trump slams McCain for being captured in Vietnam. Now, you might not like Trump, but that's not what Trump said. He may have said that briefly, but he spent 3 or 4 other comments clarifying that McCain was a war hero. And even some folks on the left are giving the Post some grief for its biased reporting. And that's the problem we have right now, is we want to let people make up their own mind. We are losing the ability to engage in critical thinking in this country because we're being spoon-fed, and that is a problem.
And that just wasn't the Post. I mean, that was pretty universally the public response to. And honestly, Joe, I didn't know that Trump backpedaled on that. Everything I've read, even in today's paper, indicates that he dug in and said, John McCain, not really a war hero because I like my war heroes not captured. I mean, he seemed to be digging in on that.
Well, no, if you listen, initially when he's engaged in that conversation, of course, they say John McCain's a war hero. He says he isn't. And then he quickly, during that conversation, says he is a war hero. He is a war hero because he was captured. He is a war hero because he was captured. And I believe perhaps he's a war hero. So he did say initially that he was not a war hero, followed by 4 affirmations that he was. No doubt about it that it was not the best way to say something, but I think the avalanche we're getting right now from the Post is ridiculous, especially if you go back to Jeb Bush. I mean, Jeb Bush has no room to complain at all because he wrote a letter to that fellow Day from the Swift boat crowd back in 2004, honoring them for bashing John Kerry's career in the military. So that's what I'm saying. You have such a fixation on Donald Trump that the Post hates Donald Trump. And I use that in my article, where Sanders was the cat's meow and Donald Trump was a pariah. And that's what gets me, Ed, is because, Sanders is a great thing for the Democratic Party. It really is. And I think his candidacy is great. And it's being portrayed that way by the Post. And I think Donald Trump's candidacy is great for the Republican Party because he's saying things a lot of folks believe that would not be said.
But, Joe, there aren't many Republicans who would agree with that. It's not just the press that's beating up on Trump for what he said. It's every other Republican presidential candidate.
Well, of course, because they're nowhere in the polls. They're all upset because Donald Trump's taking their time.
Well, even Walker. Walker's leading Iowa. He's still very critical of what Trump said.
Well, you have to, because right now Trump is, he's leading the national polls, he's leading out in Nevada, he's leading in South Carolina, doing very well in New Hampshire. Walker, yes, he's doing well in Iowa, but he's a Midwesterner. That's expected. If he doesn't win Iowa, his campaign is doomed. And so Walker has to try to engage, but these folks don't want to engage Trump because they know they're going to lose, especially in terms of the voters. And I think this is what's very interesting right now is I want to look at the polls in the next few weeks, especially in the next week and a half, to see if this McCain thing has hurt Trump. My prediction is going to be it hasn't. And if that's the case, the interesting thing is that this media bias isn't working anymore. But I think it's going to be true. Yeah.
But no, the immigration comments, the comments about Mexican immigrants being rapists. I mean that did not go over well either.
But it did. I mean, he surged in the polls. I mean, it went from 5% to 15, 16, 17%. His favorability is improved. I think again, he is not the masterful way of saying things in a way that's easy on the ears, but he is saying things that I think are out there, and I think that's why he's being attacked so bad, just like Bernie Sanders is. Bernie Sanders is saying things that a lot of people really believe in, but it's not in that mainstream card, so they're trying to discredit him, just like they're trying to discredit Trump. I do believe these two are completely different.
Well, yeah.
In terms of the
we'll agree on that.
they're running the same thing. They're challenging their party's establishment to such an extent that they have to be hit hard. Because we all know we have to have a Bush-Clinton rematch again. I mean, is that the best we can offer in this country?
Well, I have a feeling that's not going to be what comes out. I don't see Iowa, either Iowa Republicans or Democrats being just in lockstep with that prediction. We'll see. I mean, it's really.
I hope not.
You remember last time around, Joe, the lead in the Republican campaign for the winner of the caucus, it changed like 6 times. There was a point where Rick Perry was in the lead, and Michelle Bachmann won the straw poll, which thankfully has been abolished. Ron Paul was ahead at one point, and Herman Cain. I mean, everybody had a chance to be front runner. It was like the American League East, and everybody had a chance to be the front runner for a month.
It's very true. Very true. It was like a roulette wheel. But I think what's going to happen and this is why you see a lot of these 1%ers, 2%ers, 3%ers really struggling, because what Donald Trump is doing, whether or not people believe he's serious or he's going to potentially have a chance, it's not important, because right now in the summer, he is so dominating the press, he is so dominating the headlines, that these little guys that needed a little bit of chance to get out, they're not going anywhere. Their funding's going to dry up. Their donor base is going to dry up. So Trump is, in a way, going to winnow down this field.
So are you actually supporting Trump?
Well, yeah, Trump is the only one on the game plan that I actually would support.
So are we? Are we expecting you in Iowa though to be campaigning for him anytime soon? Should I be looking for you at our local coffee shops?
All I'm going to say is that it very well could be that we'd be having a drink of coffee, because where are you, in Ames right now?
Des Moines. Des Moines,
okay, yeah. I could very well be there in the next few weeks. So we might be sharing some coffee. You know, I've often said, ever since I worked with Pat Buchanan, there is nobody else that I'd get back on the campaign trail with. I might be my words in the next few weeks.
We'll see. I mean, I will not be surprised if Trump... It seems to me he's dug himself a bit of a hole between beating up on immigrants and beating up on John McCain. And again, you know, maybe there's something to the fact that the whole thing is being spun in certain ways. But the way Trump operates, I have a hard time seeing him not continue to throw Molotov cocktails that end up exploding in his face. I mean, I have a hard time seeing him continue to behave that way and get anything but less support. We'll see.
Well, and Ed, the only thing I would differ with is that look at immigration. Up until Trump announced, everybody just assumed that we were going to have immigration reform, a sort of amnesty, that nobody could talk about the crime factor associated with it. Trump came in and changed that wholeheartedly. He changed the dialogue on it. He changed the idea about sanctuary cities. Look at Hillary Clinton. She doesn't know whether she's for it or against it. She's pulling a John Kerry on sanctuary cities. So he has changed the dynamic. Now, you're right. His personality is going to be an issue that you have to deal with. But again, when it comes to the media, and this is where we come back to, when it comes to the media, their coverage of Trump has been anything but fair. And mind you, I'm not complaining because Trump can handle himself. But I think when you're looking at Bernie Sanders, too, and you're looking at some of these other guys that are out there that are not getting the appropriate coverage that they should be getting, because we live in this system that we believe that we have to have establishment candidates that will get coronated and will go ahead and fight, and at the end of the day, nothing really changes in Washington.
Well, I'll tell you, if nothing else, Joe, it would be an interesting general election to have the billionaire, Trump, facing off against the billionaire basher, Sanders. that would give people a clear choice, wouldn't it?
The ratings would be off the hook, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, the media might actually like that.
Yeah, it would be. I think that would be great, and I look at it this way: that would be a fun election, and heck, I'm going to buy you one. I'll make you a bet that Trump will win Iowa, and if I lose, I'm going to come out and buy you a cup of coffee.
Okay.
I know you're probably thinking I'm nuts, but mark my words, I have a feeling that that's going to happen.
And if Trump wins Iowa, I'm going to buy you a whole bag of dry roast.
That'll be good. Because remember, I was out there in Iowa with Pat Buchanan, not '96 when I think he should have won, but for Alan Keyes. But Iowa, I know Iowa voters have a strong sense of populism in them, and I know they love tough talk. And,
yeah, populism is bipartisan here.
It is, and that's going to be very interesting. And I've always loved being out that way, and I've always considered Iowa a second home.
Well, I imagine we might see it before the caucuses. Anyway, Joe, thanks so much for joining us on the program today. Joe Murray, folks, an attorney from Mississippi, joining us on the Fallon Forum this morning.